And another angle on this whole British exit from the European Union is who are the winners and the losers, and one of the winners may very well be Vladimir Putin. Former Green Beret Ben Collins is our next guest, and we said right before, thank you, by the way, for coming in. We appreciate it, and Ron and Deirdre are still with us as well. We were just saying this before the last break. You try to look at the people who may benefit, and you say Putin. Why?
Well, certainly because, look, if in the post-Cold War security strategy, a united Europe is something that Putin is strongly against. I mean, you watched what he just did, in the invasion of the Ukraine, simply because the Ukraine had come forward and said that they were interested in actually joining the EU. So one of the consequences of this, and I think nobody would disagree, is that there is a lot of uncertainty now in terms of how unified will Europe be moving forward. So not just a fiscal and the military prowess, right? And there is a separate between EU and the NATO. But the fact is, EU is going to have to spend a lot of time looking inward, fixing kind of inward problems, and that's going to be great benefit.
It does bring up this larger debate, right, that we were having about does this vote make us more, or make them, I guess, more to the point, more or less safe? Are you arguing that it makes us makes them less safe in Europe?
So there's a long-term strategic thing, which to me the threat there is Russia and Putin and certainly his aggression
versus immigration
and the terrorist threat, right? So again, there are issues that will now arise in terms of how they share data and intelligence and information, joint operations, things like that. These are answers that are going to have to be met. What are the knock-on effects of, what if Scotland gets out of the UK? Well, now England would lose their, the single place where they house, their 4 nuclear submarines, which would change the security, the nuclear policy. There are just a lot of issues that we are now going to have to address, that they're going to have to address. So
people want to know why markets are down. You can see how much uncertainty. But go ahead, Ron. What are your thoughts on this?
I largely agree with Ben on this. I think in the short term, Russia's saying, look, the EU, they're distracted. They're looking here. They're looking there. And what do I want to do if I'm Vladimir Putin sitting in the Kremlin? On the other hand, we are talking about the European Union. We're not talking about the NATO alliance. Britain is still in the NATO alliance. And if Putin decides to get a little bit too cute, shall we say, then NATO's still there to check his aggression.
Yeah, but NATO in many ways is really us, right? We're the one that contributes the most money. And I mean, all you have to do is look a few winters ago. Putin essentially cut off that entire natural gas pipeline. People in Ukraine had no heat. It was just sort of this friendly reminder. Just remember, you're right next to us, and your buddies more on the quote-unquote continent and in the U.S., they're pretty far away. What are they going to do? Are they going to send troops here and get you heat back in your houses? No.
No.
One final thought, Ben, before we let you go on all this?
Well, I think, there's two quick things is one that, if there is something, a silver lining perhaps, it's that you look at which countries have kind of actually pay the 2% of their GDP into supporting, NATO. This might force some of the other countries to actually step up and start investing more in research and development. The flip side of that is now, the one staunch opponent or the one organization, the one country that's been kind of helping us be aggressive with sanctions against Russia has been the UK. So now that they are out of the EU, that's going to be a problem. And the EU is now actually talking about standing up their own army, which would be in conflict of NATO and be a problem. And so just a lot of unknowns.
Exactly. That was my point earlier, which speaks to markets. Thank you, Ben. Good to see you, Ben Collins, with us.